Exactly a year after he returned to the White House, US President Donald Trump and the Republicans will face their first major electoral test on November 4th. Voters across 4 states, New Jersey, Virginia, California, and New York City, will head to cast their ballots. While New Jersey and Virginia will vote for their next governor, New York City will vote to elect their next mayor, and voters in California will take a call on redrawing the state's electoral map. While Trump himself is not on the ballot, Democrats and Republicans are still talking about him and his MAGA policies, making these elections a mini referendum for Trump and perhaps the opening salvo of the 2026 midterm elections. In New Jersey, Democrat Mickey Sherrill is pitted against Republican Jack Ciattarelli. The governor's race is being watched closely for signs of how firmly Trump's base still holds. In the presidential polls last year, every majority Hispanic township had swung towards him by an average of 25 points. Tuesday's vote is likely to show whether that shift was a durable realignment or a one-time bounty. In Virginia, which is second only to California in the size of its federal workforce, Democrat Abigail Spanberger is pitted against Republican Winsome Alcias, a staunch Trump ally. Spanberger has vowed in her speeches to stand up for the federal workers laid off by Trump's Department of Government Efficiency, but rural voters in the state remain sharply divided.
As far as I'm concerned, I've not seen anything good come out of the people that are running the country now in the state of Virginia. I think that we need people that care for other people. We need the humanity.
In New York City, Democrat Zoran Mamdani is leading polls to become the next city mayor, despite the Republican Party having no realistic chance in the city. The U.S. president has tried to insert himself into the mayoral race. Trump has alternated between threatening to cut federal funds and offers of support to Mamdani's rivals. And lastly, in California, Democrats are leading the push to redraw the state's congressional maps and flip 5 Republican-held seats in the House of Representatives in favor of Democrats. Latest polls say that more than half the likely voters favor the proposition. The November 4th elections come months before the crucial midterm congressional polls, which will determine Trump's stronghold in the Senate and the House of Representatives. The results across the 4 states will not change Trump's presidency, but they will signal whether his MAGA movement can outlast his presence on the ballot. As things stand, in the House of Representatives, Republicans have a slim majority with 219 seats, Democrats have 213 seats, while 3 seats are vacant. In the Senate, Republicans have 53 seats, while Democrats have 47 seats. This includes 2 independent senators who caucus with Democrats. Alex Jaden is a Republican strategist, award-winning investigative journalist, and also a writer, former Republican candidate for U.S. Senate in New Jersey. He's now joining us live from Trenton, New Jersey. Mr. Jaden, some critics call this election a mini referendum for President Trump, even though he's not on the ballot. How do you view these polls?
Well, look, the President of the United States is always a factor in elections, even the ones that happen in off years. But every election is different. Here in New Jersey, it's a referendum on 8 years of a Democratic governor, and people here are hungry for change. We've already seen Democratic mayors crossing the aisle to signal their support for Jack Ciattarelli, our Republican nominee. And we can already see in early voting that Republicans are more enthusiastic than ever to flip this state red. So President Trump's leadership is bringing more voters to the table. You accurately mentioned Hispanic voters overwhelmingly backed President Trump last year, to the surprise of many pundits here. And we're looking at trends that indicate that that could continue. Latinos and black men could be the difference in a race here in New Jersey. Virginia, the dynamic is a little bit different because they have so many federal workers. But if you look at New York City, you would think Zoran Mamdani would spend all his time talking about Donald Trump, but he's not. Cuomo talks more about Trump than Mamdani does. Mamdani has a hold on this radical socialist base that is now becoming the majority of the Democratic Party. That's his key to victory, not opposition to or an alliance with President Trump. Every election is different.
Every election is different indeed. But Mr. Jayden, what impact or effects do you think these polls will have on the 2026 midterm elections?
I certainly think they will have an impact. And especially if we are able to flip New Jersey red, that is going to signal a turning of the tide that could be something that could last into the midterm elections. Republicans are enthusiastic about the ability, the opportunity to hold both the Senate and the House. President Trump is obviously enthusiastic about that too. This right now, this election that we are in the midst of because early voting is ongoing, this is a clarion call. This is an opportunity for Republicans to come out and signal that President Trump's leadership has invigorated and emboldened a new generation of conservatives, a new generation of conservative leadership, and that these conservatives are activated and motivated to come out in elections, even when President Trump is not on the ballot.
Mr. Jayden, finally, we've talked about New Jersey, we've talked about New York. Let's talk about California now. What's your view on the redistricting of California? Democrats are highly hopeful and confident about that.
Sure, I think that Gavin Newsom, the governor over there, has worked his oily magic on the voters in that very blue state, and it seems that that proposition will pass, although we won't know until the voters actually come out. This sort of redistricting war is not something that I think the average American is going to jump on board with. The idea behind the Constitution creating these districts, the laws, the redistricting that occur, is that these districts should be competitive across the country. There should be purple districts, all 435 of them. Independent redistricting commissions are the best way to accomplish that. Gavin Newsom wants to change that to gain a partisan advantage. He may win the battle in this, but he's not going to win the war.
All right, Alex, thank you very much for your time and for talking to us today.
Thank you for having me.